Hello. I'm going to get all the puns and stuff out of the way first, okay? So I literally just got back from I was in Massachusetts all week. I was in Boston, so like a fish out of water. I parked my car in Harvard Yard, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, I drove halfway yesterday and then stayed up in Scranton and then got up this morning and drove back and with my 14-year-old son, listening to his interesting taste in music, and his conversation was not particularly enlightening, but it was certainly entertaining. Needless to say, I'm utterly exhausted. Okay.
And he's here.
I'm here. That's right. So I decided I would not chicken out, and that I would wing it. Now that I've been given the opportunity to hog the microphone. Okay. Can somebody please groan for me so that I know that I got a reaction here? That is so satisfying. Thank you. Anyway, all right. So I'm Matt Szechenyi. Yes, Szechenyi is how you say it, and I don't expect you to speak any Hungarian. I get it. And yes, it's correct. Amy came to the farm not too long ago and signed up for my raw milk cow share program. As you know, in Virginia and a number of other states, you can't legally get raw milk. So in Virginia, we do cow shares or herd shares. So Amy signed up, and we had a great conversation one day, and she told me about the Mountain Patriots group, and we shared our faith. And so I came to the group and met Dana, and the rest, they say, is history. So thank you. So what I do at the farm, I'm over in Boyce, over in Clark County. And I live on 200-acre property. It belongs to my family, so I'm very blessed to be there. I didn't have to purchase land. And that's one thing that's difficult for people who want to get into agriculture, who want to get into small farming, is that it's hard to find a place to start your business. If you're going to buy property, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to spend, and it's hard to get that back. It takes a long time to make a small farm financially sustainable, particularly if you're like me, where you start off from scratch. And I had a mental health background, and then I'm a musician also, and so I didn't have a lot of experience with raising livestock. So from the ground up, I got started. This was in 2005, and I'd been seeking the Lord, and He showed me a vision of people coming to the farm, and I thought to myself, and this was kind of, I don't remember if it was a dream or if it was actually a vision, but I know it was the Lord was speaking to me and showing me things, and I remember thinking, do I really want all these people coming here, And then I remember it just seemed really right, and I had peace about it, and started exploring it. And I went and I talked to this very inspired, very intelligent gentleman down near Stanton. His name is Joel Salatin with Polyface Farm. He's like the daddy of the small farming movement. He wrote books, lots of books. I got his books. I read them. I went and talked to him. I was able to actually get about an hour of his time, and I sat and I spoke with him and got inspired. And then I just took the plunge. That was in 2005. So now it's really awesome for me to take an old historic property and use I would call regenerative farming practices which contribute to the health of the soil and make the land more productive. A lot of traditional farming methods are not regenerative. For instance, out on my property, well, it's not my property, but I get to be there. on that property for many years, there was a guy leasing the land, and he was grazing cattle on that land. They were keeping the grass down, that's for sure. But what cattle do, I don't know if you know this or not, but cattle eat dessert first. Okay, so if you put cattle in a field, they will go and they'll find all the sweetest grass first, the best tasting grass, like the clover. Okay, and they'll hit that, and they'll hit it hard, and then they'll just keep going. And as it grows up, they're just going to keep hitting it. And for grass to grow, it needs to get to a certain flush of growth before it gets cut. So it gets to a flush of growth, and then when it gets cut, what that does is it stimulates the roots to grow down into the soil. And that's what you want. You want deep-rooted grass, because when the drought hits, that grass isn't going to dry up. And it's going to get more nutrients from below the soil. So what happens is the cattle will keep munching, and they'll keep munching if you keep them in that same place. And next thing you know, you have a field that's full of forages which are undesirable for cattle. And then you have soil compaction, which takes place from the cattle going over the same place all the time. Okay, and so you're starting to create poor soil conditions. And after years and years of doing that, you have practically destroyed your field. Out there, we have several fields that are they were completely overgrown with noxious species of plants, like I call it hedge apple, but it's Osage orange. It's that fibrous tree with the treacherous thorns and that yellow grapefruit-sized, brainy textured fruit. They're firewood's real nice. I mean, it burns real hot, but it'll dull the heck out of your chain. I mean, it'll throw sparks. But you can't get rid of hedge apple. I mean, it's the roots go underground and they intertwine, and it just proliferates. And then you got multiflora rose and persimmon and honey locust, and thorny stuff starts to take over your field. And so we've got a lot of nice grazing pastures out there, but because of the farming methods that were used, the continuous grazing of cattle, we created poor soil conditions, which allowed the farm to produce noxious species of plants that don't benefit anybody. So what we had to do is we had to spend a lot of money and take drastic measures. And because I didn't want to use poison on the ground, we got a guy to come in with one of those big, what do they call those, forestry mulchers. It like attaches on the front of a bobcat, and it just eats up the trees. It just eats them up and turns them into mulch. And so he did that on several of our fields and cleared them, and now the grasses are growing, and I'm doing my best right now to take the cattle and to really manage their grazing. So I'm rotating them from place to place. And so regenerative farming uses rotational grazing. So any animal that you are grazing, you use portable electric fencing to keep those animals in a certain pasture for a little while, and then you move them before they mess that area up too bad. And so that's what I'm doing with I raise chickens, hogs, and cattle for beef and cattle for milk. And I want my milk cattle and my beef cattle to be eating the best forages possible. Clover, very high in protein. It's a very nutritious forage. There are other grasses that are very beneficial, and I want those fields to be a polyculture, okay? I want them to have many different types of forages. So a lot of people's lawns are a monoculture, right? They get ChemLawn to come in there and kill all the dandelion and all the good stuff and just have one type of grass. But God didn't create monoculture. Just look at nature. I mean, just look at it. Think about each snowflake. Every snowflake is different from the other. So out in the field, right? Look at everybody in here, right? We got a serious polyculture going on, and that's the way God does things. But people get in there, and we think that we've got it figured out better than God does, and we get away from the basics of things, and we start messing around, creating monocultures and stuff, and spraying chemicals, and next thing you know, we got sick animals and we got sick people. But the worst thing about it breaks my heart, is that we have sick soil, right? I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I supplement with magnesium every day because the leafy green vegetables that I'm getting, they're supposed to have the magnesium in them. They don't have it because the soil doesn't have it, because the soil's been depleted or they've used chemical fertilizers. Okay, so we've got to get back to the old ways, to the basic ways, and the ways that really make a lot of sense, the natural ways that God created. And I think this really ties in with what you've heard about natural medicine today. Farming and natural medicine, they really go hand in hand together. I'm trying to remember who said it. I don't know. I don't want to misquote anybody. Maybe it was Hippocrates who said, "Let thy food be medicine and thy medicine be food." Socrates. It was one of them Greek dudes. Hippocrates. The hypocritical oath? Okay. So yes, sir. So, yeah. So, we want to... My vision then was to be involved in something that would feed the soil, that would help to restore the property on which I lived. I mean, I just looked around me and I realized what an incredible opportunity I have here. And I know that we're supposed to be stewarding the land better, and we're supposed to be stewarding animals better, and really we're supposed to be stewarding each other better too, and stewarding our bodies. And we have been very poor stewards of our bodies. And one reason is because we lack knowledge. And as it says in the book of Hosea, without knowledge, the people perish. Right? And that certainly is what greater forces are desiring, is that we perish, that there are less of us, right? That's why the whole system with the food and the medicine and everything is designed to keep us sick, right? So I realized I had the opportunity to be involved in something that promotes wellness, that promotes healing, the healing of the land, the healing of the soil. It's healing for me to be with the animals, and I know they enjoy being around me as well most of the time, especially when I'm feeding them. I mean, that's what they're using me for that, but it's okay. I'll do it, But no. So yes, restoring the land. Okay, stewarding animals, producing nutrient-dense food. So in my case, meats. All right, pork, beef, chicken, milk, eggs. Okay, I was doing pasture-raised turkeys also. I haven't done that in a couple years. Cornelius knows. He used to be on the turkey crew. Processing turkeys is a huge job. I've got a really nice poultry dressing set up. I mean, I've got a scalder and a plucker, and I mean, I've got all that stuff. But turkeys are big animals, and you got to wrestle them, and and they'll eat you out of house and home too. It's really hard to keep up with the feed bill. I use non-GMO feeds. Non-GMO feeds should be cheaper than conventional feeds, but they're actually a heck of a lot more, and they're not getting any cheaper. But I'm not going to compromise on that. I'm just not. I'm going to feed them the non-GMO feeds. I do not want feeds that are sprayed with Roundup. I do not want GMO corn. I don't want Roundup ready corn or soybeans or any of that nonsense. I don't want any more exposure to those toxins than I already get, like if I go out to eat or something, right? It's hard to go out to eat and get clean meat that's not been fed GMOs and other nastiness. And then there's a whole aspect to what I'm doing, and I feel this way about when you cook your food too. I love to cook, and I love to feed people. I do it with love, and there is something about when you do things with love that's life-giving. Imagine that, and when we're loving the animals, right? And we're loving the soil, and we're loving one another. And when we're loving ourselves, we're not going to want to put toxins in our bodies, are we? Right? So think of it this way. We're restoring the land. We're stewarding animals. We're restoring our health. We're restoring relationships. If you're not healthy, it's harder to have good relationships. And, the evil one is certainly after relationships, particularly marriages, families, which are the key component of society. So if you're feeling bad because you're eating crap, right? And you're growling at each other and you're hollering at each other and there's strife and tension in the home and your kids are picking up on that and everybody's uptight, anxious. So you got to run to the doctor and, get something to treat your head or whatever, But it seems very simple, but when we engage in these practices and we consciously, because we love ourselves. Why? Because God loved us so much that he sent his only son to die for us on the cross. And that truth is so central. It should give everyone a sense of value. Why should you not love yourself when he loved you? Even when you were with the crowd that said crucify him, he still loved you, right? So you got to love you first, right? Because he loved you. And all in proper perspective. I'm not talking about the narcissistic kind of love here. But when you love you and you steward your body, because this is a temple here, right? All of us, we were created for fellowship with God and to fellowship with one another, okay? Of course, that got stolen. Adam surrendered that to the evil one. He gave his dominion over creation and stewardship. He gave that back to the evil one. One of the ways that we can take that back, because we have the authority to do that through Jesus Christ, we start to take the earth back by doing what is right. And that is because Jesus, the second Adam, okay, he has restored us to our proper dominion over the earth, right? But we've been taught that it's all going to burn anyway, and the rapture's going to come, and we're just going to get airlifted out of here, and it doesn't matter. Well, I'm here to tell you, Jesus said, occupy until I come. Occupy is a military term. Yes, sir? You occupy, you can seize that territory, and you hold it, right? And then you hold the position that your commanding officer has told you, and you don't question it, you just do it until he tells you to quit, right? And so we have the power to do that, okay? And what I'm getting to, okay, is what I am doing, okay, it's so much bigger than, I'm a farmer and I sell meat, okay? I mean, I shamelessly am self-promoting my farm, okay? But I'm not ashamed, okay? Because what I saw when I began, I saw community. I saw people. Yeah, farms are for people, and I say that all the time. And my farm is set up to where you come and you feel welcome there. And you feel like it's your farm. Now the Lord, one of my gifts that he gave me is hospitality, okay? So like I said, I enjoy feeding people, okay? So when you come to the farm, you have access to clean meats, non-GMO meats, grass-fed beef, right? Pasture-raised eggs, pork, so forth. Animals that have been loved, animals that have been able to be in their natural environment, so to speak. The hogs get large areas. I use electric fencing, and they're able to root and grub and do their hog thing, express their hogness, right? And it's the same with all. That's the way I do all my animals. And that makes the best end product. The happier animals, the happier end product, the happier, healthier people. I'm loving on the animals. They're loving on me because I'm feeding them. They're loving on the earth because they're not there too long destroying it. So their manure and their activity on the soil is promoting soil health, promoting nutrient cycling, promoting the growth of healthy forages. Because I don't finish my beef with grain, they're grass finished. I want my beef to be eating good forages. So I'm really always learning and doing the best that I can to make sure that my pastures are growing the best grasses possible. I'm trying to do it. I can't afford to go out and buy seed and fertilizer. It's all in the soil. If I can help to heal the soil will express itself with a healthy polyculture of forages for grazing animals, okay? And then you come and get the grass-fed beef. I'm sure you're familiar with the nutritional profile of grass-fed beef. It's an extremely healthy animal fat. It has essential components to it: conjugated linoleic acid, higher omega-3 versus omega-6 ratio. It's maybe a little more like venison would be, although they eat acorns. That kind of skews it a little bit. But the fat that you're getting from grass-fed animals is certainly much more impressive nutrition-wise. So what happens is a community within a community has been created. So because my strengths lie in hospitality, in stewarding animals, and in the production of nutrient-dense meats, I rely on people to be my distribution network. When I first started, we did some farmers markets, and we kind of got our name out there, and it was kind of fun. But what I found was that at farmers markets, people just want to ask you questions and talk, which I really enjoy. I'm sure you figured that out. I like to gab. But I also like to sell stuff, and I'd be sitting there at the farmer's market, and all our stuff would be in the cooler, and they're like gabbing at me and asking me questions, and I'm like, you want to buy some sweet Italian sausage? It's really good. You know, I got some whole chickens. You know, they're thawing right now in the cooler. Can you please? It's 96 degrees. You want to buy some? I've been here all morning, you know, away from the farm. You want to buy something too, you know? Anyway, I found that farmers markets weren't really working for me. I was away from the farm. I was not getting the sales that I was looking for, and I was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to really have to trust you here, because I can't seem to be able to create a predictable income. I can't predict my sales. I want to be able to do that, but I'm going to really step out here, and I'm going to start doing it from the farm. And we're going to create a community of people that are going to alter their foraging pattern to Costco and the grocery store, because whatever motive they happen to have, and they have a number of different motives, they're going to show up at the farm, and they're going to be my distribution network, and I'm just going to sell directly from the farm. And that way I can concentrate on what I do best. And that is what has happened. Now, it's taken a really long time. It's been a struggle for sure. I've had some very difficult things occur in the process. But, you know, God is, when he promises something and when he shows you the vision, when your commanding officer tells you to stand right there, you just do it. Don't question it. Just do it. And you know, if I'm supposed to stand right there and shoot in that direction, well, I'm going to be the best shot that I can be. You know, because that's what if I'm just a rifleman and that's what I'm going to do, I'm a lowly rifleman, I'm going to do the best I can until he tells me to go somewhere else. So that's what I'm doing with my farm. And now that brings us up to today. Okay, we're standing right here. I've been gone for 6 days. Now the last time I had a vacation, so I work 7 days a week. I mean, I'm not, please don't feel sorry for me, because I love it. And a lot of times it doesn't feel like work. And I don't work all day long, because I realize the work isn't going anywhere. And I want to keep doing it, right? I'm not a spring chicken any longer, right? I'm more like a Thanksgiving turkey, like right before the holiday comes. The axe is right there, you know. No, just kidding. But I realize that, you know, I turned 55 this year, so I want to do this. I want to do this for the next 25 years. Why not? 30. I mean, let's do this, right? So, what am I getting at here? I took a vacation. 3 years ago, I left for about 3 days, went down to the Outer Banks, and I went fishing. That's why I'm sporting this hat, because I wear this every day, because I chartered a boat, me and my son, and we went out and we caught like striper and what else? What else did we catch? We caught some catfish. We caught some red drum. Oh, it was the most wonderful vacation. But that was 3 years ago. So today, or this last week, I was gone for 6 days. And, you know, the time was approaching that I was going to leave. And I did have a couple people lined up. And, you know, one of my oldest, oh gosh, that's the wrong word. I shouldn't have said oldest. One of the, no. Well, she is an experienced farm customer. She is a faithful, loyal, long-time farm friend and cow shareholder. Her name is Martha. Sometimes she rubs me the wrong way with her puns, but hey, but I can bring them too. I can dish them out. You know that. So anyway, Martha has a nephew who has been helping me with the milking for the past few months. He's finding it extremely therapeutic. He's very sweet to the cows. That's important. Jersey cows are drama queens, and you got to be really nice to them, really sensitive to their moods. You can't change things too much. You got to really baby them. So he babies my cows, and I was just like, this guy is just the perfect fit to be, milkman number 2. So I trained him. He observed and learned the idiosyncrasies of each cow, and then cut him loose, and he took care of the milking while I was away. And then there was just some really, really excellent folks from the Mountain Patriot group who showed up and took care of the afternoon feeding chores, and it was fantastic. They fed the pigs. I have 2 sets of hogs. I've got, how many pigs do I have? 6. I have 16 of them right now, split up into 2 groups. So they fed them, gave them water. They took care of the eggs. They went and collected and washed the eggs and put them in boxes for me, and then closed them up at night. And I'm not going to get into that. Chris had a heck of a time getting the hens closed up because they missed me a lot. They did. And they got freaked out, and he had trouble. But everybody pitched in and helped, and so there was all of a sudden, God made this community happen. And it was very interesting because I had just arrived at Mountain Patriots Group. But it's like, particularly with Dana, it's like we knew each other in the spirit already. It was like we were ancient friends, ancient brothers, like from way back or something. And that's the feeling that I got when I went to Pastor Gene's church, the way y'all welcomed me and my son. Everyone came up, introduced themselves. And, that's a hard thing to find in churches these days, where it feels like family. And so I realized, I felt a little strange asking these people to help because I just showed up, But it just seemed like this is what the Lord created this opportunity. And then all of a sudden I realized, hey, wait a minute. This is more than just me being able to go on vacation, because it really wasn't a vacation for me. It was all about my son. Like, I had to drive him into Boston. So my sister lives about 20 miles from Boston, but it takes an hour to get into Boston. And I had to get up way earlier than I like getting up. Just because I'm a farmer doesn't mean I like to get up early. So I had to get up way early, take him into Boston. That took an hour, fight the traffic, and then drive back to my sister's house, and then hang out there for the day. I ended up taking a lot of naps. And then, of course, in the evening, I had to go and drive in again, and then drive back. So that was almost 4 hours a day of driving in and out of Boston. It's not my definition of a vacation. But needless to say, it was a real blessing for my son, and it was a real blessing for my sister. We got to spend time together. But it's much bigger than what I got to do with my son and my family, okay? Because what happened is the vision that I had seen many years ago about a small farm brings people together. It creates community. And it's exactly what needs to happen now with the way everything's going in this world. We need each other. We need to help one another. And farms certainly need help. There's a lot of work to do, especially when you're a one-man show like myself. So at any rate, what ended up happening was this opportunity. And what I realized is there are folks who want to do something. They want to help. And all of a sudden, I felt extremely encouraged because we all know what's going on. It's what's been talking about all day here, okay? It's easy to get discouraged if you focus on what they're doing, okay? But guess what? We are doing something, aren't we? Not only are we here today, That's awesome. That's a big deal, okay? But on my little microcosm of a farm, people who know what's up, who are awakened to the realities of what's going on, awakened to spiritual realities, they want to do something. And a lot of us don't have the resources or the skills or the talents to go out and engage local politicians or school board, or a lot of us don't have that. But each of us has something that we think is small that we can do. And so, the egg washer did a really big thing, because that's doing something. That's getting a community and making it move, and it's keeping a farm moving, and it's keeping the eggs nice and clean and boxed up and available for the people who are coming to the farm to get them. And it's keeping everything in motion. And it gave somebody for a week, maybe they'll come and do it some more, but it gave somebody something tangible to do, to where they felt like, hey, I'm doing something. And the fact that I remember like the day that 15 people that showed up at my house to help? It was at least 15 people. Yeah. And I didn't even have all that much work to do, but 15 people showed up to help. And I was like, people want to do something. People want to they want to contribute. They want to contribute to something which is life-giving, which is positive. So this just kind of, I should probably quit talking now, but this all just ties into what's happening here, is that with a small farm, from my perspective, a small farm creates community, and a small farm depends on community. When I think about the way the Amish do it, or even some of the Mennonites, they have this advantage of having integrated community where everyone's working together. Now, I don't have that, but I experienced something like that, like an Amish barn raising. I experienced something like that this past week. I was off the farm for an entire week, and there were no problems. Everything just went seamlessly, and everybody showed up and they did their part, and it was excellent. And so, well, once again, it's so much more than me. It's about community, people getting together, people being unified, and people getting stuff done, productive things which are good for the land, good for animals, good for the community, good for our bodies, good for each other. Unity, right? That's what happened this week at the farm, unity. And it's a fulfillment of a vision I saw many years ago, and it's really taken fire. And so I'm encouraged, and I want everyone else to be encouraged with this story that I have told you today. And I want to empower anybody who is wondering, what can I do? What can I do? Well, you can just come wash eggs for me. No, I'm just kidding. But what I'm trying to say is, there is something that you can do. Find it, do it, and do it with love. Do it with your whole heart. Amen? All right. Thank you.
Not bad, brother. Oh, man.
Not bad for winging it.
Man, I'm winging it. I love it. We talked about this the other day. I love it. I love it. But he's right. It's all about community. We had a long conversation the other night about this. And, I'll tell you, if people need milk, and people need beef, and that's where you go. That's where you go. Somebody might say, well, I'm spending a little bit more over here. Well, what is that costing you health-wise? Now I got to take an antacid, and now I got to take this, and now I got all this toilet paper that I got to buy now. It just keeps going. But I would much rather work here as a community, and we're going to build this. This is getting bigger, and if you notice, this is the third one we've done. Has it gotten bigger? Are there more people? We started with 7. And I couldn't tell you how many people have been here today. It's been absolutely incredible.